Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tim Radio Show. I'm your host, Tim Radio. This is going to be a pretty quick episode because I actually did the entire episode and I messed something up that I can't leave in the video, which might surprise you because the end of the video is going to be pretty messed up. But I had to redo it. So anyway, here we go. So first of all, I just noticed this article in Infowars.com here. They're kind of like complaining about, California 8th graders taught this, stuff that I don't even want to mention. Like in the sex ed class, talk about like role play and like body fluid and blood play and sex toys and bondage, like all this kind of stuff, anal stuff. But my response isn't so much about whether they're teaching that or not. I don't agree with that. The article actually kind of implies that is being taught actively. It's not true. Doesn't seem to be true, even though we've seen reports and stuff of, certain schools and actually doing that. Yes, no, maybe so. A what you want and how you want it sex checklist. It's just like this weird book. I don't know whatever. The part that I think's weird is the fact that this group posted this. And they wrote in the title, "This is a new textbook for 8th grade sex education class in California. Mandatory, you cannot opt out. Book and comments." Right? So they post this image with that title. Facebook goes in and marks it as fake news. So the creepy part is that with all the tens of thousands of moderators and stuff that Facebook employs to specifically crawl content and start to downvote and upvote stuff algorithmically, like for the algorithm to determine, to consider, They actually go and mark that as false. That's fake. That's fake because the title's incorrect. So this is what they wrote. Update: Facebook has unfairly blocked this post and marked it as false news. Why? Because the picture used in the original posting and shows their headline claiming it was being taught in class. Our write-up, however, corrects this error and emphasizes that it was listed as recommended reading and removed after parental outcry, which is confirmed in their false news write-up. What IPOW wrote was absolutely true. However, in an attempt to discredit us, Facebook made an unfair judgment call. So they took a screenshot, wrote like information like this, and so even though the screenshot contained incorrect info, they're referencing that they're saying like, look, this is reading material that's being suggested that the students read, right? So even though this part of the screenshot's incorrect, they're referencing the actual content of what this book is and that it's being promoted in classes. And then Facebook goes like, no, technically it's incorrect because it has this false information inside of it. So this is kind of the creep level of how much control and how much power that Facebook actively exercises now. They didn't do this a couple of years ago, people. They did not do this a couple of years ago. They did not touch anything related with this. They just if you want to make you could make some crazy white supremacist, super racist, whatever racist you want to kind of be, kind of group. And you can make threats and all that. They didn't touch anything, right? But then when they got enough data and they start getting pressure from like globalist organizations and stuff like that, it basically started going the other way. They started scanning every photo. They were doing all this stuff anyway. They were already aggregating the data. They just weren't acting on it. But now they've simulated this so many times. Like actively they would take a year of previous data and run simulations on it to see how much data would have spread out. How popular a story would have gotten if it did this instead. So it'll simulate all these responses and stuff. For example, we know that this had a 5% click-through rate, but if we didn't put that into the suggestions, how many people would have found it, blah, blah, etc. And they actively do that. So Zuckerberg even went under Congress and testified saying vaccines are generally conceived, the medical industry, the scientific community generally considers vaccines as safe, so we're not going to go out of our way to suggest content that is suggesting that it's not safe. So he was saying that the algorithm that Facebook has to determine what to put in your feed to show, because it generates that feed constantly. Every time you refresh, it's like, okay, what do I show you? And it's usually based on your friends, what they like, what you like, all this data mashed together, and it calculates the best content to give you to make you keep scrolling as much as possible, over and over and over. and to give you a certain amount of response. So if I post a photo, Facebook wants me to get like a couple likes because then it'll keep me posting. So it will purposely go out and promote my post to try and get people to like it, so that whatever. But if it doesn't like what I'm posting, it's going to do the opposite. It'll hide that from other people's feeds. So if I go on my Facebook and I post something like, look at these top 10 issues related to, vaccines, or, top 10 payouts of vaccine damage courts, there's all these vaccine damage courts and they pay billions of dollars. I'm going to know which cases those were paid out for. So if I try to promote that kind of stuff, or even just put that on Facebook as just legit data, even just links to it, Facebook knows that and sequesters it. It puts it into the black box so that unless someone goes to it directly, they don't see it. So even when you're typing in groups, like if you type in vaccine groups in Facebook, it'll never suggest a anti-vaccine group. It'll only be pro-vaccine groups. It'll actively suggest pro-vaccine groups. So it's not like it doesn't do any suggestions for this topic or that topic. It won't do it for this view of a topic. Right? And so they'll do this with like pro-life and anti-abortion or pro-choice or whatever. I love how they word that stuff. It's pro-choice, but that's pro-life because they didn't want to be anti-choice and they didn't want to be anti-life. So they both got to be pro something. They're anti-abortion or pro-life. So which are you? Are you anti-abortion, pro-life? It's the same thing, but the message is, quite different. Yeah, so I this is just one of those examples. The article is kind of talking about whether or not this is actually being taught, but the creepy part is that Facebook's involved in the conversations that we're having with each other about stuff that we want to share using their platform. So if you want to share a book through it, they're like, no, book's fake. We don't want you reading that book. And they actively ban people. So if you don't break their terms of service, but they feel like you shouldn't be on their platform, they'll just get rid of you. So it's like, you're not allowed to use our telephone anymore. So imagine if you start calling people and you're calling them and you're saying, hey man, I heard this story about, like Trump doing this or whatever, or Hillary, or I heard Hillary killed all these people or something. And then something chimes in the phone like, beep. The previous message has been determined to be fake news. Beep. And then you continue with your conversation. I mean, that's the level it is. I mean, imagine if that happened. And essentially they are doing it. You call through all these call apps and stuff like that. All that data is saved. Every phone call you've ever made on Skype is saved. You can guarantee it. And all of them, because why wouldn't you? You're piping the data through. Why not save it and then run tests on it at the very least? Like, you don't have to actually go listen to them. You just run tests on them. Teach software how to listen audio to text and blah, blah, blah. And then you can see all these things like, okay, these are all the conversations. 90% of the conversations contain these words. 10% contain those words. And people pronounce this way in these places, and call the most, misunderstood word over the phone is this one. They know all that stuff. They have it. That's the whole data game. That's why all that stuff's free. And we're going to see more about that in a second. Let's skip to that one because that's probably that ties in directly to it. So basically, they're coming out, these organizations that deal with consumer rights and stuff like that are going looking at companies like Grindr and Tinder and stuff, and you're not allowed to advertise to people based on certain demographic identifiers. So, for example, if you're a bank, you can't say, hey, black women aged 30 in this location, come check out our product. There's a lot of laws that say you can't target based on this or that with these kind of services because it ends up excluding other people from those services. So it's kind of discriminatory in its absence of other demographics. And so they do that with loans. They do that with like any financial kind of product does that. Health products, certain things like that as well. And sometimes people get in trouble for it. Usually it's fine. Like there's that company in the UK, I think it was. There was like a PC building company or whatever, and they got in trouble because they said girl in it instead of implying that it's for any gender. So it's like they made an ad for like women bosses, and they're like, no, you can't do that. You can say bosses, you can't say women bosses. Because then it's omitting males or people who don't identify as females or whatever. So anyway, these Like a new report by this is what this article says here. It says, quote, a new report by the Norwegian Consumer Council details how Grindr, which markets itself as the world's largest social networking app for gay, bi, trans, and queer people, which I still don't know what queer is separate from the other, and kind of like the, what is it, Norm Macdonald saying, well, if you're bi, aren't you gay? I mean, doesn't bi make you gay? It's like kind of redundant messaging. But I mean, I don't know why. Tinder doesn't just have a filter that says, "Hey, I want to look at guys. I'm a guy. I want to look at guys. Or I'm a girl. I want to look at girls. I'm a guy. I want to look at girls. I'm a girl. I want to look at guys." I mean, there's only so many options. But anyway, so it's the largest one, which is owned by a Chinese company, by the way, one of the most homophobic countries on the planet, and they own it, and they own all that data. And not only do they own the data, they own your images, all these pictures you're putting up that people are swiping. They're using this in algorithms to determine what good people look like, what this looks like, what gay looks like. They're actually using these algorithms to determine what gay people look like so that they can identify gay people just by looking at them. Look at the way they dress, the thing, like if they have, even if it's just still photos, but if it's video, they'll look at body language. They'll actually project they'll calculate a skeleton over the person's body language to even calculate, if the shoulder dips a quarter of an inch, or if the hips kind of move to the side, or the stance, like the gait changes in their walk, all these things. And it's so accurate. It's like they're looking at millimeter changes in people's movements, their eyes twitching, their, mouths, lips moving, the color of their teeth. I mean, they can see everything. They can in these photos. Like they keep giving you better and better and better cameras, even though we don't need better cameras than a certain point. Because if you remember these digital cameras, they used to come when the digital cameras were coming out. They're like, this one's a 3 megapixel. And, oh, cool. And then you look at the picture and like, it's kind of small. Like it doesn't print very well. And they're like, oh yeah, you need like you need at least a 9 megapixel. They're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you get this 9 megapixel, and they're like, yeah, that looks awesome, man. You blow it up and make a big, banner out of it if you want. It has like all these nice colors and stuff. They basically perfected cameras like 10 years ago in terms of like generating some of the best image quality that you can get on a consumer level. But they keep giving us more and more cameras on the phone with more sensors, with more like little bits to it, and they keep they compensate the price of those. So when they add GPS, I mean, nobody actually wants the GPS in the phone. Like that's something that used to cost $300 and like $10 a year in like subscription fees and stuff like that. You had to keep paying for it, right? Because you're using GPS data. But they give that to you for free now. They give you the GPS data for free because they're using your GPS data. They're watching where you go. They're watching your movements. They're watching where, and governments are using it. Advertising agencies are using it. These large corporations, more than one government agencies are using it for sure. So anyway, in this case, they're actually advertising. The advertisers are allowed to target gay people based on the fact that the app is for gay people. So when the advertiser is advertising to that platform, they're advertising knowing that the person is using a gay dating app. Like what it says here, every time you open an app like Grindr, advertisement networks get your GPS location, device identifiers, so basically what device you're using, if it's in landscape or portrait mode, what the screen resolution is, the last time you made a phone call, it's the speed of it, how much battery left is on it, all that kind of stuff. So device identifier, or at least the model numbers or whatever, and even the fact that you're using a gay dating app. So it's not anonymous. It's not like, hey, I'm advertising on this network and this app is in the network. This is a gay dating app that you're advertising on that I can target directly. And it is a straight up violation of EU privacy rights, because like 2 years ago they made all these changes where you have to opt into certain things for them to track you. So if you even go to a website, you see all these pop-ups and stuff now saying, hey, do you agree, do you disagree, we have to blah blah blah. You can adjust your settings, so they'll track you when you're on different websites and stuff. So if I go to this website and I go to one of their partner websites, they know or even the advertisers know, they can sell the data, whatever, that I was on this previous site and I read this article, and now I'm on this other website and I'm reading this different article, and all this data associated with it. So if I'm logged into a Google account or a Facebook account or Twitter account, if I'm logged into whatever, so if I go back onto Facebook or if I go into Twitter, I can actually get those advertisements from that person that I visited earlier, because it's called retargeting. So they got the cookie from the fact that I was there. Twitter's plugged into their site. When I go back onto Twitter, they can advertise through Twitter for Twitter to retarget me, because they've already determined that I was on their website. It's called retargeting, and it's one of the most popular forms of advertising right now. That's why, and a lot of times you're just sitting by your phone. Like, there's so many reports of this. It's insane, but people will be talking about stuff and then they'll go on their phone and see advertisements for it on websites. So they're looking at, they're talking about, let's say they're talking about probiotics or something like that, and then boom, they start seeing all these probiotic things, right? I mean, you definitely see that when you search. So when you're searching stuff, you start to see those ads because of the retargeting. But oftentimes it's based on just proxy data now. So it's like your GPS location, you're close to the store, so now that store can advertise to you. The OK Google thing picked you up saying, or Alexa or something like that picked you up saying something else. Even when it didn't do an action on it, it still recorded the fact that you talked about it. All these things. If you're having a TV, all these TVs now, all these smart TVs, go look at the terms of service on these smart TVs. It's saying that it'll listen to you laugh. It'll watch you. A lot of them have cameras built into them now. They even tell you, like, legally, they say, be careful what you say, because third-party outlets could be using this data against you. Even legally. You could be legally liable for some of the stuff you say around the TV. It's when it comes plugged with Netflix and stuff like that. Not only is Netflix getting your viewing data, but like Sony will get your viewing data. Sony will see the movies you watched on Netflix. So not only does Netflix know what you watch, but Sony knows what you watch, how long you watch it, when you watch it, how you watch it, how many people roughly are there watching it with you. If you're single, if you're family, if you have kids, if you watch kids stuff because you're with kids, or just because you're a freak or something, whatever. I mean, just all these things, man. They categorize everything, and they're crazy not to, because that's what I do. If someone opts into stuff, I aggregate all that data and use it together to try to make decisions and stuff like that, either through advertising or whatever. But the fact is that people aren't being mindful of how much information they're giving out and how little they get in return for it. So even just for kind of self-preservation, you shouldn't be giving this kind of data out, because it can be used maliciously against you. If you're talking about, we're still in wars right now. We're not, the world isn't so woke right now where everybody's in this utopia where everybody's happy and we're just frolicking around. We're actively in wars. You don't think that this data, that the Chinese government doesn't have access to this data that's used through this gay dating app that is mining it in a way that could be used against the citizens? I mean, they have gulags of the Chinese have 1 million strong Muslim camp. That's basically a concentration camp where they're not allowed to leave. They're not, because they won't renounce Islam. So they want to practice Islam, but they're in China, so they won't let them. They basically just lock them up. And same thing, if you go there and you try to, what was that? Gulang or something like that. I forget what the name is, but just hold this 1 second. Sorry for the little jump cut there. I just had to pause it for a second. So anyway, people got to really get on the data train and start figuring out how to at least lock down their data so that they're not because you can go on Facebook and you can tell them a whole bunch of privacy things not to do with your stuff. You can do that. A lot of these companies have some kind of privacy settings that you can just turn off, like GPS tracking, sending data back. Almost every app or website that you use, or app mainly, or software, will have some option in it that says help us improve the software by periodically sending back usage data, blah blah blah, whatever. Now, that's kind of nice in some ways, because then you can help the developers actually do better work, stuff like that. But in a lot of cases, it's just to get your data. That's just their way of getting your data. How much, especially with Windows software, you're using some free program or something like that. It's sending so much data back every time you use it, what other programs you got going on, the specs of your computer, and it's usually used in a totally normal way. But the fact is, And if it's a free product, you can kind of understand those things. But when you look at something like Facebook, it should be considered like a telephone line as opposed to an actual application, because it's just so huge now. There's so many people on it. It almost has to be taken over by the government so that new private companies can come up and compete with that one and actually do better jobs of it, because inevitably the government will mess it up. But that's what we need. We need competition for Facebook and stuff to have different kind of communication platforms. And we're starting to see that. We got websites like Gab and stuff that you're allowed to go on. They either don't track your data or they give you credit for it. They give you some kind of credit for tracking your data. So every time you like something, they give you like half a penny or something. Those kind of things. And that's the future. That's where it's going to go anyway. You're going to get paid for your data, but I just hope that people actually start taking control of it before it starts being used as some kind of a, just to coup us a bit, because they want more and more data, so they're just going to say, okay, well, now we'll start paying for, like, we'll see this with the insurance companies doing this with health and with driving and stuff. So you put this little thing in your car, let us track how you actually drive, and we will give you a discount. So we're not going to penalize the people for not tracking, but we're going to give you a discount for allowing us to track. It's the exact same thing. They either penalize the other guys or you give me a discount. You got to make the money somewhere, so the people who don't opt in are offsetting the cost. You're not going to just start losing money just because you want to help people. No, that's not how business works. You're not even allowed to do that as an organization, because it would be detrimental to your shareholders. Your shareholders would throw you out, or if you did it on purpose, knowing that it's just going to bring down your price, you'd get sued. So they're not even allowed to do that kind of thing. So they're either being illegal and just giving stuff out for free carelessly as a company, or they are actually penalizing people who don't opt in by not giving them the discount and by offsetting that discount with what the actual regular price is. You can say, regular price is $1 million. And like, I can't pay $1 million. Like, well, if you let us track you, then it's only $1. It's like, okay, how is it only $1? Like, think about it. So anyway, and they're doing that with health apps now. So if you want to get insurance, like health insurance at certain companies, they say, well, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to wear this monitoring device. They even want to make people wear these certain belts to make sure they don't get too fat, because fat people are a liability in companies. It's crazy. And in some cases, you kind of understand the arguments, like, okay, yeah, the thing is free, or it is to encourage that, or blah blah blah. But just, we got to be the ones choosing stuff, not basically being duped into forfeiting. Anyway, the whole Prince William thing. This is such a stupid title anyway. It doesn't make sense. So cheesy. Losing the will. Prince William shows Harry how it's done as he returns to royal duties after ruling Queen some. Now, this is actually the part I want to play, because I predicted this as soon as Meghan Markle became kind of the princess or whatever. I was like, they're not going to let her stay in there. This is not going to pan out. She's not going to be there in 20 years. It's just not going to happen. Something's going to happen. They'll either get divorced or they'll do something. It won't stay together like that. They won't let her in the family. And the premise of it is because they're just racist about their lineage. They want to keep the lineage clean, and they won't let a black Canadian girl in there. That's just the gist of it. So, and then they start coming up with all these articles and stuff, or in general saying, look how nasty she is. People call her nutmeg. All of her assistants and stuff are kind of annoyed she's so whiny and bratty and all this kind of stuff, right? Which you can kind of see, kind of makes sense, kind of looks like it. But at the same time, the royal family would never let news media coverage be like that against the family. Like, even when Prince Andrew, alleged pedophile, Epstein friend, flew on the plane and stayed at his house many times, and then did that interview and made himself look terrible, like, just made himself look guilty, like really guilty, because he was making excuses. Like, the person asked him, this person says you had sex with them when they're underage, and said that you were at this party thing and you were like sweating profusely. And it's like, oh no, that can't be, because at the time I had a medical condition where I couldn't sweat. And everybody's like, what the and then they show all these pictures of him at the time, like looking damp, like he just looks like sticky. And like at dances and stuff. And he's like, oh no, I couldn't have done it that day, because that day I went and took my kids to this ice cream parlor place and on 2nd and 5th and blah. It's just like way too specific, buddy. Like, you're not doing this right at all. Like, if you are innocent, you're really not making it look like it. And anyway, so they got in trouble. Now he had to step down from his duties because it was just so bad that he did that. But all the media leading up to that was like, zip, nobody talk about it. Even though there's all this evidence and stuff, everybody's like, don't talk about it. You know, putting that on the newspapers and stuff. And ABC, the anchor on ABC there, who was on the hot mic, that Project Veritas video came out, where she's basically saying, I had the Epstein story years ago, and she was mad because she had the story and she was going to be the one to break it, but then ABC spiked the story, saying nobody cares who that is, blah blah blah, and they were getting threats from the royal family saying that they were going to like basically crush him with lawsuits and stuff if they ran that story. So the royal family knew about the story. It was not public. It was in ABC Studios' hands, right? Disney owns ABC. The stuff ties together. You'll see. And they're just... So how did they know? Blah, blah, blah. How did the royal family know about it and then threaten it if it was just a fake story, and then it ends up kind of being true, that like all the Epstein stuff anyway, because even that person was saying how it ties to Prince Andrew, and the royal family was just basically pissed. They're like not letting this thing go, and that was it. And so here, watch this.
Can you allow me one more question on this? Again, more broadly, I think, because last year 70 MPs signed a letter, and in that letter they said they felt that the coverage of Meghan in the British press had colonial undertones. Do you think race is an issue in the coverage of this?
Well, again, you know, I'm just going to...
So he won't answer any of the questions. The guy keeps trying to get him to answer. I think it's Boris Johnson. Tries to get him to respond like what he thinks about the whole, you know, royal family, kind of, if they're removing them or if they're stepping out or whatever. They're in Canada. The Prince and Meghan there were in Canada. In Trudeau, the idiot Trudeau, says he's going to pick up the security bill for them. I'm like, what the hell? These people have hundreds... They got basically $100 trillion. They're worth like $100 trillion. And we're paying their effing security bill? It's unbelievable. And just to try to get them to sweeten them into moving to BC, because they think that they're going to move to BC. Unfriggin' believable. And there's even an article saying like the Premier and the Prime Minister were giddy about it or something. I mean, it's stupid articles anyway, but unfucking believable that they think paying their security bill is a good idea for a royal family that literally gets paid like 1% of everything done in Britain goes to them for all their duties, so that they're kind of so that they don't have to have private businesses and stuff like that, so that they can be kind of for the country or whatever and have all these things taken care of. They get paid essentially a tax, and we're paying their bills because they want to kind of defect from the thing, whatever. Total bullshit, man. So stupid. Just one of the things of turd water that's an issue. Justin Turdwater. I mean, it's so bizarre, man. And like, so he was just doing these duties or whatever, and just a bunch of pictures. And a lot of people don't know this, but that's not a hearing aid. That's actually a battery pack. If you zoom in really close, you'll see it'll say battery pack for the Queen. I'm just kidding. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen crazier stuff. A battery-powered Queen wouldn't be, you know, super high on the list of craziest things. But there you go. Just another cronyism and yeah, the main thing I was kind of pointing out, what he was saying there is like they basically just admit right there that the coverage of the thing was by design from the palace. So the palace is putting out this kind of narrative that she's kind of a bitch and all this kind of stuff, and it's based on the fact that they don't want her in there. She's not supposed to be there. They're trying to keep that bloodline clean, so they got to kind of get the hell out of there. And so whether or not those stories were true or dramatized or whatever, they would never have made it into the press if it wasn't for the palace to allow it or to push it actively. They have their own press corps thing. They got their own thing. If someone gets caught like leaking stuff out of the palace and stuff, they're dead. They're done. They're hung up to dry, basically. So the whole thing was manufactured to begin with. But it doesn't mean that they're not, crazier in their own ways. There's that video there, this right here. Check this out. Look, Markle's talking to Beyonce and Jay-Z. They're like, oh, we're such big fans of the show Suits, which I really like that show. It's really good for like the first few seasons, whatever, and then it's just like, oh my, this is on repeat. And then he's right next to Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. And she's like there, like she doesn't hear it. Like, she does voiceovers. Bob Iger. Oh, I didn't know. No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. You didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. And he's like, yeah, I knew that. I just really did not want to cast a friggin' princess into a Disney movie, even. So yeah, sure, they would love to. So basically, he's just saying, hey, yeah, she does voiceovers there. Do you want to, you should try. And he's like, yeah, we'd love to try that. We'd love to try. He really doesn't want to, because if you just think about it, like if the palace has that much control over media and what can be said about Prince Andrew versus what can be said about Markle, and if what I'm suggesting is true, that they will spike one thing but promote another because it's part of their agenda, then that's not the kind of people that you want to be working with when you're trying to make a movie that has like subliminal messaging in it, that is like engineered to be the most optimal thing, like the Frozen song, to how they make the characters, to the size of the eyes versus the lips versus the head versus the hips versus the feet versus everything, the way they manipulate every little detail of the movie. Even how they took over like Star Wars, now you got the Baby Yoda, the way they've designed that Baby Yoda is to be cute, is to be memeable, is to be merchandisable. It's not meant to be, and it's meant to be a demographic anchor. So even if you don't like Star Wars, you watch it just to kind of see that thing. Like if you're like a girl or something like that, a lot of times that's how the guy's watching it, and they're like, I just want to see Baby Yoda, and that's what happens. And then you see all these memes of like Baby Yoda drinking coffee and stuff, and it's by design. I can, bring me to a movie set. I'll help you take shots that people are going to be using in memes. Guaranteed. Like, absolutely guaranteed. So, I mean, and that's a whole thing now. But Disney is so deep into that. And the calculating of every second on screen and audible is calculated. So they don't want to be dealing with that with also the queen, the palace being involved, where it's like, you know what, she spins this way, we don't like that, you're not allowed to do this, or you got to change this feature, or we don't like that line, or we can't have this music in the thing because of this, and it relates that, like, there's too much relation, you know what I mean? So anyway, and they removed this video, apparently. That's what they said. But and then reposted it, and I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So remember this guy, the president. I talked about this when that flight went down. The what was it called? The Iranian flight with a bunch of Canadians on it, like 57 Canadians or something like that, and they blew it up. And as soon as it was like within hours of that happening, I did the episode, and I was like, they blew that thing up. Look at it. You don't have an explosion like that. I even showed pictures of actual plane crashes, And when the plane crashes, it just plops on the ground and busts in half and usually lights on fire. Like, it turns into a fireball. It doesn't, even when there's an explosion, it doesn't, like, disintegrate it. It doesn't, like, blow the parts all over the place. Even if this thing does, like, it can do the worst landing possible, it can cover some area as it's moving, but it largely stays together. Like, 80% of the thing is intact together. It's just on fire, and everybody usually gets caught inside or dies on impact or whatever. Or pass out when it's going down or something, in the rare cases this happen. And then even when it hits water, like a lot of times when it hits water, it doesn't disintegrate. It'll smash and it'll break apart quite a bit, and then usually it sinks and drifts off and all that kind of stuff. But even then, they'll find like two halves of the plane underwater. But anyway, this picture was showing where it was just debris everywhere. It was just acres of just debris everywhere, pieces all over the place. And I'm like, that thing was blowing up in the sky. There's no way. And then they even showed the video of the thing on fire going down. And I'm like, the thing was blown up, man. And then they started like bulldozing it. And then they're like, immediately they're like, oh, it was must have been a malfunction of the plane. And then people were saying that it was related to Boeing because it was another Boeing plane. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with Boeing. Those were the Max planes. That's not the plane they were flying. This is a plane that's been in the air for like 20 years as a series. There's nothing suggesting that it had anything to do with the plane at all. That same day or the day before, the Iranian president and Trump are going back and forth on Twitter talking about like war, and then he even said those who refer to the number 52, because Trump said we've targeted 52 different Iranian sites of interest to the Iranian government and to the Iranian culture that will blow the shit out of if you mess with any of our troops or something like that. They send off he says this: those who refer to the number 52 should also remember the number 290, IR 655, never threaten the Iranian nation. And then they end up shooting like 2 missiles at a base. Everybody was safe. Trump gave the thing the next day saying, nobody was hurt. We have a good warning system. None of our people were killed. None of the Iraqis were killed. But Iran did fire this missile at one of our bases. And then he didn't really do anything about it. And then like 2 hours later, they blow up. That plane crashes. That plane blows up. And then they're like, no, it was a malfunction. I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy literally says he's going to kill. He's going to kill. Like they're attacking Americans. And he's like, those who refer to the number 52 should also remember the number 290, IR 655. So IR 65, Iranian flight 655. The U.S. accidentally shoots down an Iranian ship like 30 years ago. 290 people on board were killed. So, like, why? Clearly, that's a threat. I mean, that's a threat. Those who refer to the number 52, meaning like the 52 sites that Trump was going to target and destroy, should also remember the number 290. So he's literally saying, if you want to mess with us, we're going to fucking start shooting down planes. Unbelievable, man. It's unreal. And then this is even like several people detained over airliner. So Iran is going and arresting their own people that they hired to go do this stuff. I mean, and then like Trudeau and stuff like that. They're like, oh, watch this. Like, and this is like fake news stuff. This is super left media. They hate Trump, and look, this guy Brian Lilly, who cares who this guy is, but this is his thing, I guess. Lilly, Trudeau effectively blames Trump for Iran shooting down plane. Nowhere in this article does he say that. They specifically ask him that, and he changes it, and he basically says, when we see rising tensions and conflicts and military actions anywhere in the world, it is always innocents who get sideswiped. Trudeau says in an exclusive interview with Global News. And somehow that, if there were no tensions, if there was no escalations in the recently in the region, those Canadians would be right now home with their families. Well, actually, they're flying to Ukraine. I don't know why all these Iranians were flying to Ukraine, why was there like 57 Canadians on that plane? They're all like Iranian students. Somebody said they had something to do with the Olympics. I mean, I was trying to figure that out, what they had to do with the Olympics. They're like student athletes or something, maybe. But why were they in Iran at that time when it's like the worst possible time to be in Iran? They're like escalating to war with Russia. Then like 52 of them head over to Ukraine and get blown up in the process. It just seems so weird. So weird. And then Trudeau's response to it was like, oh, we're deeply saddened and blah, blah, blah. We just want to, we're going to go over there and we're going to help with the investigations. So we'll participate in any of the investigations. So, something to that effect. So they're not even going over there to do their own investigations. So a president threatens to kill a whole bunch of people. A whole bunch of people get blown up in a plane in a direct reference to his tweet that he wrote hours before. And the Canadian government's like,
oh, well, we'll just have to see what they say. They said it was an accident.
It's like, bullshit. This guy's a fucking idiot if he thinks, like, it's so stupid, man. This guy, as soon as that thing, those pictures were released, first of all, they got spy satellites everywhere. They saw the thing happen. They would have seen the missile been launched at the very least. Like, they got, like, second clips, like, boom, 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 of satellite imagery. Like, of the entire friggin' planet. And they know that, they already knew that they blew it up. They just didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know what to do. I don't know why there's not already a war started over that. Why is there not already a war? Nobody wants to go to war, but they just blew up like 200 people in a plane, in a passenger plane. It was a friggin' passenger plane, and it was all Iranians. Even the Canadians, most of the Canadians that were there are Iranian. So they essentially effectively blow up their own people. 50 plus of them are actual citizens of Canada and students mostly. And Trudeau is like, well, we're going to go over and see what they say. Like, if it was me, I'd be like, we're going over and we're doing the investigation ourselves completely, and we will hold that government to account for that atrocity, and it's going to be a war crime. It's going to be this, that, the other, whatever it is. We're going to hit them with sanctions. We're going to literally destroy that government until the point where the people of that country throw those people out. Like, you guys on the ground got to get rid of that government, or we're going to get rid of them. That's what I'd be saying. Because they're even shooting the protesters that were protesting the downed airline. Everybody knew when they saw it that thing was blown up. I don't know why everybody I even showed you the clip from like CTV where they're just like, yeah, I mean, it's not really consistent with a lot of things that are normal crashes. They don't really have much data, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they blew the sucker up. They blew it up. How is that not super obvious? And look at this idiot. Look at this dumbass. And this is Canadians have questions and they deserve it. That's how he talks. Everything's like that. It's a heartbreaking tragedy where the this and ooh, like everything. Like they just make, like, he never actually says anything. He never says he's going to do something. Unbelievable. Where's the... So I think there's a part here where he talks about trying to see if they had that little line there where he says basically, we're gonna go over there and we're gonna we'll participate in any investigation that they're having. Like, basically saying that we'll go over there to see what they say. Like, we're not even going to do our own investigation over there. Just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. He's going to lose over this. He's got to lose over that. I mean, if he didn't lose for like the elections for anything else, he should lose for that. And by the way, look at this. Come on. Look at that. Come on. Come on. Look at that. I mean, how do you not equate these? I don't get it. Like, this is what his father looks like. Do they look anything alike at all in any way? Like, in any way. This guy, like, this family is old. Like, this is an old family. Like, old colonial, like, you look at pictures of Sir John A. Macdonald. Get out of there. Right? I mean, like these old school looking dudes. Right? So, but you can see the genes, right? You can see the certain genes there. From the nose to the cheekbones. Look at those kind of cheekbones, right? The lips. Like quite full lips, like that. Like, especially the bottom lip. It's quite big bottom lip. The brow line. The hairline. The type of hair. I mean, you're going to have very similar hair to your father. Right? If a boy's going to have very similar hair to a father, the mother to the daughter to the mother, etc. There's a lot of traits that can go either way, but generally speaking, I mean, I don't know, that's a quite specific pattern of hair. Sometimes it's grandfather, whatever, it skips a thing or something like that. What, I don't know, but the skin complexion, the type of complexion, like he has a very fine skin, very fine hair, receding hairline, very specific kind of brow, and then you compare it to this, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the father. And there actually is a conspiracy about that where the Mr. and Mrs. Trudeau were actually big fans of him. That, like, this is on record. They got pictures together and all this kind of stuff. There's a picture of him holding baby Justin, like literally holding baby Justin when he's like a year old. And they said that's proof that he couldn't be the father, because that trip happened like a year after he was born. So he couldn't be the father. Okay, well, there's nothing saying that he didn't come over here. They didn't go over there another time. I mean, there's like a 2-year gap there. They could have been there 2 years ago. They could have met someone. They could have been in Panama 2 years ago, or whatever. And they're huge. They're basically socialists. He's a socialist. Trudeau is, and he was at the wedding. At the funeral. And then I saw this one reference. I never got proof of it, but they said when one of the Castros killed themselves, in one of the notes they left supposedly mentions Trudeau and not being able to live up to what his father thought of Trudeau. So his father loved his kind of, son in Canada, baby Trudeau, and he couldn't quite live up to that. Like this other Castro guy couldn't quite live up to what Justin was doing or whatever. So, I don't know. I mean, it sounds stupid, it sounds silly, but there's crazier stuff that happened, man. Way crazier. I mean, look, those lips are identical lips. Right? He doesn't have that big bottom lip like, look at the big bottom lip. The pointy nose. Like, look at the point and the rigidness of the nose versus the roundness and kind of like cup in nostril there. The little point in the nostril inside and the little bulb. Like a little bulb. The eyebrow line. Look at that eyebrow line. I mean, the hair. Like his hair is like a little bit more curly or whatever, but his is just shorter. And then you see him with you see him when he was younger. I mean, like that, when he was younger with the stash, and he's got the stash. I mean, his father couldn't even get a stash. Look, and he's even at the funeral. Look at that. That's pretty close. I love you, Daddy. I really miss you, Daddy. I miss you so much, Daddy. Oh, yeah. That's your real daddy, Justin. Just friggin' admit it. Come on, man. Like, no, it's not like anybody really cares. It's just people care about the conspiracy that you're lying about it more than anything. What about the jawline? You see, he doesn't really have a jawline. And even the shape of the head, it's kind of more of like a, like a pearish shaped. You know, this is much more square, like his real father's. Anyway, it's a conspiracy thing. I think it's interesting. It's not debunked. You can't debunk it. Get a blood test. That'll debunk it, I guess. But, this guy, Justin Trudeau, I was making a joke earlier. Trudeau, dough is O is water. So if you just say turd water, you say, so it's not Canada. Canada's Justin. It's not Canada's fault. It's Justin Turd water. Some wordplay there for you. So stupid. Alright, so he's a weak leader and he's an idiot, and it's just, it's sad, actually, for a whole bunch of reasons. So now we're going to get into some stupid stuff. And, yeah, so people got really upset about the fact that, or some people got real upset that he's talking to Trump. So, just the fact that he's talking to him, and he, like, gets up and leaves, and the famous Trump shake, you gotta extend your hand, like, it's a trick, right? He opens his hand, he gives you his hand, like a gesture, like, here you go. Like, here. Like, don't worry, here you go. And, like, almost like to a dog. Like, here, smell my hand. It's safe, don't worry, it's open. I'm relinquishing it to you. And then he grabs it and pulls it. He snatches it, and then he gives you the tap. So I don't even know what he's talking about. It could be anything. And they're like, I'm very sorry to have to share this with you, all of it, every part of it. Okay, whatever, you're a loser. And then there's this other article that I saw. This is not the right one. But basically it was like showing all these tweets of people just like, I thought you used to be funny, Vince Vaughn. Now I hate you. Like, oh, you were one of my favorites, but I'm not watching Wedding Crashers 2. Or some stupid stuff. I'm like, who cares? Oh, man. The world's going to hell. That's what people are upset about. And then this is the stuff we get advertised at the same time. This guy he lost so much weight now. Look at like what he is now. Look at this fan. It goes viral for blah blah. But you don't know why until you click it. Oh, look at this cute cat doing something funny. Ooh, the smartest dogs have been ranked by psychologists. Did yours make the cut? Ugh. Just garbage, man. And people click it. Oh, try this reverse mortgage estimator. Ooh. Reverse mortgages. So unbelievable, man. They call that promoted stories. Sponsored links. They're not stories. Look, some of the videos of animals being rescued in Australia. Of course they are. It's people are posting this shit on Facebook. Everything, half the stuff you see on Facebook's made up. This person went missing. This person needs 1,000 likes.
You won't like this photo because I have no legs.
Like, just all this stupid stuff. And like, you won't believe what happened next. And then you watch this like 4-minute clip and you're like, what the hell? Nothing happened. It's just, it's clickbait. It's fake stuff. It's manufactured stuff. It's trolling. Half of it's trolling people. It's like advertisers just trolling people into clicking stuff so that they get stuck into this perpetual loop of ads. Like, if I click this, it'll be like a slideshow with 47 next buttons where every time I click next, it's like 80 new ads just got served to me, all of which get to do everything else those other people were doing, cross-referencing all these stuff so they can get advertised, retargeted, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's stupid. Now, I'm going to show two things here. I get in trouble for using the term retarded a lot, and I was making a case. I was trying to square these two things, because there are people that are actually retarded, like, you know, like mentally retarded, or I don't know what words you're allowed to use anymore, but whatever. There's people out there that are mentally retarded. They have some sort of deficiency, some sort of thing. Like if someone's got Down syndrome, they got that extra chromosome, so they actually have, you know, this. You know, they got all the. There's just all these issues that manifest inside. Like, you know, they get all these different issues, motor skills, memory issues. You know, just communicating and stuff like that. But oftentimes they have a certain IQ that you can trace to kind of like an age. So they'll say they're going to be like a 6-year-old for the rest of their life. That's just kind of the highest kind of intelligence that they'll get to, right? Now, I don't know really how to word this thought, so I'm just going to try it. Some kind of stream of consciousness stuff. This is a fucking retard.
Suck it.
This is a retard. When I say retard, this is what I mean. I don't mean someone with Down syndrome. I mean this. This is exactly what I mean right here.
Suck it. My slogan for my campaign is ISIS.
Why won't any of these videos play? I don't understand. Come on. Yeah, okay.
Suck it. Remember, America, suck a suck a suck a whole lot. Both of me.
Now, when I say, man, that's fucking retarded, that's what I'm talking about. Stuff like that. That's actually retarded. So when someone's actually has like mental retardation or some kind of genetic issue or something like that, that's not what people are talking about when they're saying, man, that guy's so retarded. That's like the meanest person with Down syndrome I ever met, or the dumbest person with Down syndrome. Nobody's ever talking about anything like that ever. It's not insulting to people with Down syndrome or anything else, like any kind of if they're autistic or they whatever. Like I hear people in like video games and stuff like actually say, man, that's so autistic. That guy's so autistic, and like they just say autistic as like an insult thing. And I'm like, that's really dumb. But, I mean, if I was autistic, I wouldn't really take offense to it. I'd just be like, well, I mean, maybe, but it's like, it's just stupid. It's just slang. It's like you're kind of conveying a point as quickly as possible, being like, you know, someone rage quitting. Like, they can't handle something, so they just quit. I can't deal with it anymore. And they're like, dude, man, that guy was fucking autistic. Man, this is so autistic. You know, and people just use it loosely as an insult or whatever. Now, I don't, you know, that's even quite more direct, because I mean, people have been saying stuff's retarded forever. And I have never seen someone actually be mean to a retarded person. Like an actually mentally retarded person. I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying retarded so much. But anyway, when I'm talking about that stuff, this is what I'm talking about. Someone so dumb and fake and idiot and clueless and unaware that I'm not even sure that they're actually human. So that doesn't mean that when I think of someone who's actually mentally retarded, like medically or whatever, that I think they're not aware that they're not. It's actually the opposite, and I'm going to show you in a second what I'm talking about. All right, so check this out. This is a guy, which you would say is mentally retarded, which we're not allowed to say retarded, so even if I'm addressing him, I'm not allowed to say he's actually retarded. And I can't say she's actually retarded, even though I mean she's retarded and this guy's mentally retarded. And I know it's semantics and it's kind of stupid or whatever, but just listen to this. This is someone who is not retarded in the sense that I'm talking.
Don't worry, I am very accepting, very inclusive. I won't think less of you just because I have more chromosomes than you do.
So this guy is actually part of an organization that deals with people who have Down syndrome. And one of the things I saw this guy give a speech like in Congress or something like that, and he's like trying to get them to give more funding for Down syndrome research and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. I guess there's some relation there. And he's basically saying, like, I have Down syndrome, but my life is worth living. And basically saying he's glad he wasn't aborted and stuff like that. They could have got rid of him. He's fully aware. He's fully aware. He's fully conscious. He's mentally retarded. I mean, he has a whole bunch of issues. We can see the issues. I mean, we label it as Down syndrome specifically. In his case, it's a specific genetic disease with, I guess, an extra chromosome. But when someone says, like, man, this fucking has nothing to do with something, like, this is a beautiful thing to see. This is something that, like, bring you to tears watching this guy give a speech and stuff like that. Because you see how intelligent he really is, right? Even though there's all these hosts of other proxy issues, you totally can see that he's aware, he's alive, he's living, he's thinking, he's breathing. And then you see something like this, and all I can say to convey the message is, she's a fucking retard. And they read she can't even speak, nah, these memes are fucking, but shit ain't no joke, especially being from New York. It's sad this man is putting Americans' lives in danger. Dumbest move Trump did till date. I'm filing for my Nigerian citizenship. I mean, but the amount of money, the amount of attention, the amount of control, the amount of energy that's put into this kind of character instead of this kind of person. So there, I can't think of a more appropriate word for her and a least appropriate word for him. So I don't care what people think about what words I use, but this conveys the message. She's fucking retarded. And this kind of thing is bringing down the global IQ in a way that, this thing is a beautiful thing to happen. This is just demons projecting themselves into the third dimension. And I thought this was kind of funny because they played this clip here too. There's a really good movie. I saw this when it came out. It was kind of a flop at the time. I thought it was pretty cool. And then the more I think back to it, the more accurate it kind of gets. But just check this out. This is the movie Idiocracy. And just as kind of for people who don't know what it's about, Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's brother, Luke Wilson, I think it's kind of like a Futurama type thing. He gets frozen into the future or something. I don't know. He ends up in the future, and it's an idiocracy. Everyone's just super stupid, like super dumb. Nobody knows anything. It's just the whole place has gone to shit. So he's just by default the smartest person in the world because he just wasn't diluted so bad over all those years. And so they're like drinking like energy drinks for water, just all this stupid stuff. But just watch this clip. It says it all. There's like advertisements in the White House thing.
Shut up! Sit your monkey ass down. Shit. I know shit's bad right now, with all that starving bullshit, and the dust storms, and we running out of French fries and burrito coverings. Yeah. But I got a solution.
Burrito coverings.
That's what you said last time, dipshit.
I got a solution. You're a dick.
South Carolina, what's up? That's what I thought. Now, I understand everyone's shit's emotional right now, but listen up. I got a 3-point plan to fix everything. Number one, we got this guy not sure. Number two, he's got a higher IQ than any man alive. And number three, he's gonna fix everything. I give you my word as president. He'll fix the problems with all the dead crops. He's gonna make them grow again. And that ain't all. I give you my word. He's gonna fix the dust storms too. And I give you my word. He's gonna be comedy.
The comedy.
So smart. He's gonna do it all in 1 week.
President Camacho stood before the world and promised everyone that Joe would solve all their problems. He would not only end the Dust Bowl and heal the economy, but he would cure acne and car sickness as well. And if he didn't, President Camacho made another promise. He would kick Joe's smart balls all the way up to the roof of his smart mouth, and then he would throw his brainy ass back in jail.
Oh, that's so good. Kick his smart balls to the top of his smart mouth. Instead, his brainy ass back to jail. Oh, man. And this is what we got to look forward to. People who can't spell, got fake boobs, can't speak. She was born in the States. As far as I know, she was born in, like, the Bronx. I don't know why she talks like that. Like, there's one thing of having an accent. There's another thing of being completely stupid. And I don't know what's going on in the middle of the shirt here. I don't understand. She's drunk or something, and she's just an idiot. So stupid. That's what retardation looks like. This is what humanity looks like. I would never call this guy a fucking retard. Right? I would never imitate this guy being like, you know, trying to imitate, making fun of him or something like that. This is what retarded means now. This is actually intelligent. The guy's very articulate. He can explain his complex thoughts with ease. And I don't even know if this is real. I don't even think that's a real creature. I think that's, you know, like they have all these sex dolls and stuff now. I think that's basically what that is. It's they find people so dumb, so stupid, that have at least some kind of look to them that they can just parade around and do stuff with them. Like kind of like little dolls that they just prop up and do in little puppets. That sexualize your children. So now there's even videos of like people getting their kids to twerk like her or these other actresses and stuff like that. And then these people talk about like I'm gonna come out and like I was watching. She starts her sentence with like I was watching war documentaries. Period. That's her sentence. That's her sentence. Like I was watching war documentaries. No matter how many weapons a country have, you need people. How are you trying to go against a country and possibly start a war when this country lacks patriotism? I barely see people claiming they love being American. So not only is she wrong, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's totally wrong. She doesn't know what she's talking about, and she can't even articulate the thought in a clear sentence. Like she's mumbling words together, misspelling stuff, horrible punctuation. I mean, this guy's giving like jokes and stuff, talking about having like a third chromosome, but that he's still being inclusive, and he fully understands the joke, and he articulated it totally fine.
I have been asked to tell you how to improve the lives of people with Down syndrome. The key is right there in my opening paragraph. It begins with, I am a man. See me as a human being, not a birth defect, not a syndrome. I don't need to be eradicated. I don't need to be cured. I need to be loved, valued, educated, and sometimes helped. What should that help be? Provide training to parents and babies as soon as possible. Provide medical care, eye exams and classes. Send us to school with everyone else. provide job training and coaches until we learn to work on our own. Most of all, expect competence, not failure. By the way, the cost to the rest of you of providing that help is the cost of a single cup of coffee per month. What difference will inclusion, acceptance, and early intervention mean? Allow me to use my life as one of...
So, I don't care what anybody says about what words you can use, what words you can't use. I make a pretty clear distinction between these two lines. And, this is a horrible point to make. Nobody's going to appreciate this point. But this is something super beautiful, super nice, like, incredible to see. I love this. The first time I saw this, I basically cried. The one where he's in Congress. I was like, damn, man, this is... Because he was basically saying, I'm a man, and my life is worth living. And I was like, fuck. Because they're talking about aborting, like, there's all these things people talk about aborting people, like, do you abort them if they have Down syndrome, do you not, do you do this, do you do blah, 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 it's a lifetime of this, and they make it seem like it's this big, huge, daunting thing, instead of kind of like what he's saying, it's just like, let's just help these people, let's just try to get them, let's stop looking at it like it's something that needs to be fixed, and just help people, and then you got people like this going on TV, getting paid millions and millions of dollars, parading around like they know something, talking on talk shows, and then, oh yeah, I didn't even show you this part. Did I play this? This is so dumb.
You are feeling the burn right now.
Oh, feel the burn.
Bernie Sanders, you are feeling that burn. What about him excites you the most?
What I like about Bernie Sanders is that he's been doing this for a long time. He's a natural humanitarian. You know that there's people that just care for the world. They just want to take care of people. That's their passion. They don't do it for money. They do it because that's their passion. Yeah. And he's been doing this for a long time, not just to become a president and get good votes. That's just how he naturally is.
So my only moral dilemma is, because I see someone like Greta, and I'll make fun of Greta because she's being used. She's autistic and stuff, and then there's all these memes of her like, I want you to feel my pain. Like those kind of things, and like her looking like Hitler and talking like Hitler and actually quoting stuff basically like Hitler said, and then acting like it and saying, I want to impose this, we no longer doing this, we have to, I'm not letting you get away with it, and like just freaking out and stuff. And then they're parading her around, they're putting money behind her and parading her around. She's mentally ill, she doesn't know what she's talked about, she doesn't actually have any answers or suggestions. She's just an upset autistic person that thinks the world's going to end, and they're using that to their advantage. So I kind of wonder, I'm like, can you make fun of someone like that? She's a victim in that case because she's a kid. So she's only, I think she's like 17 now. If you're autistic, how bad, or Asperger's or whatever, how much do you put on them? It's just kind of like the same thing with the autistic guy. If he does the Down syndrome guy, Frank, I forget his last name. But if he does something wrong, like kills somebody, how much weight do you put in the fact that he has Down syndrome and how smart he is, like how aware he is and stuff like that? Did he know what he was doing at the time? How much leniency can you give to someone like that for doing bad things if something happens? You know what I mean? So, that's a hard thing to question, but when I see something like this and I say, because I keep getting in trouble for this all the time, saying that's retarded or this is retarded, or even just saying something stupid, I say something stupid or that something's gay, like, oh, that's gay, man, get that away from me. I don't like to be around gay stuff, so what? It's not homophobia. I'm not scared of gay people. I'm not scared a gay person's going to snatch me in the night. I just don't like seeing gay guys kiss on television shows that are meant for kids. I don't think that's appropriate. I think it creates a whole bunch of questions that don't need to be answered at certain stages for a lot of people, or just, it's just uncomfortable. Just not comfortable with it. Too bad. Not comfortable. And maybe that's a bad thing for me or a good thing or whatever, but I wouldn't not hire someone because they're gay, or I wouldn't say, oh, I don't like this person because they're gay or something like that. I just feel like if there's two guys making out in front of me, I'm like, I don't want to see that. There's a guy and girl. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, well, I still don't want to see it. I mean, still, even when people are just smooching and stuff, I'm like, guys, go get a room. If it's just a guy and a girl, I'm still saying the same thing. So it's just uncomfortable. But same thing relating to this. Like, if you look at somebody that's technically considered mentally retarded, and then you see someone that is just retarded, I like to define those two things separate, and I think it's totally fine, and I think it's totally appropriate, or at least not appropriate, for people to use that kind of language, because it conveys the exact point I'm talking about. Nobody is going to look at me and say, this guy hates people with Down syndrome. I fucking hate retards. But I love anybody that has Down syndrome. I don't care. This is a retard that we're looking at. The other guy is just a beautiful human being doing good for the world. That's it. He's just a man, like he's saying, he's just a man. Maybe he needs some help with some stuff. But that's it. Right? This is what retardation looks like. And including Bernie. Like, when you hear these people get on stage and debate stuff, I think they're doing another debate tonight or something like that. But they get on these debates and they're just talking in circles and they say one-liners and they're like looking at the crowd being like, did I get the joke? Was it funny? And like they plan all these one-liners instead of actually just going there with facts and information. They're just going to hit it hard. But you know, this guy doesn't get $8 million for giving a speech or for an endorsement. If he gives if he liked Trump, then it'd be game over for him. They wouldn't care. But if he says he likes Hillary, then they're gonna parade him around and say, "Here, he likes Hillary," and then get him. It's like, hey, well, don't talk about this part. Talk about that part. And I bet you this guy wouldn't even go for it. He'd be like, "No, I'm not doing that. I just want to do what I know I'm supposed to do." And he's gonna keep doing what he's doing because you can see good in people versus when someone's actually retarded. This is a person with a subnormal IQ. So she is stupid. She might actually be retarded in a medical sense, but she's at least aware and conscious enough that she knows what she's doing is just basically selling your soul to the devil. And when you're that dumb and you act that stupid and you say such stupid things and you can't spell and you can't do anything like that, I'm allowed to call you a retard. And that's how I'm going to end the episode. So I'll leave the links and stuff. I really suggest you watch this. This is actually, it's totally worth watching. There's a couple guys like this. This one as well. I mean, there's just some really amazing people that actually have these conditions and stuff that do amazing stuff. And there's actually another one. I'm going to show you this. Special books by special kids. So this is really hard to watch. This can be very difficult to watch, but it's also some of the most rewarding stuff to watch. It's like it's this guy here, he goes and like hangs out with all these people that have just a whole range of different issues. Like tons and tons of issues. Like, and some stuff, it's like, it's almost traumatizing to watch it. Because it'll be like somebody that was like burned as a baby or something. And he has like no legs, no arms. He looks like a pepperoni stick or something like that, like legitimately. But he's totally like, he talks perfect. He's just totally normal. He's just physically almost destroyed physically. And or there'll be like this girl or something like, and she looks basically brain dead or something like that. But then they start talking to her, and you can start seeing like these bits of life kind of shine through them, that it's actually really, you know, enlightening. You're like, wow, man, I can't believe, like, you know, like, look at this little guy. And like, you'll probably hear him talking, and look, he's just being really nice and everything, giving you a hug. And I mean, it's just crazy stuff, but super heartwarming and stuff like that. And it's cool that they kind of bring this out in a nice way. So anytime I'm using language or something like that, I'm fully aware that this stuff exists and my appreciation for it, and that people should be appreciating this and treat these things in a different way. But you know what? Most of these people, when you would ask them kind of questions like, what do you think when people are like commenting on this or something, like, well, I just, you know, I understand, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's incredible. It's just incredible. Anyway, I would suggest checking this out because it's quite interesting, and I think it's good for the soul in some ways to be at least be aware of some of these things. Because I mean, I'm gonna scroll through it quick, and there's some really doozies in here. I scrolled past them. It's very. I don't want to be showing it to people because it is quite difficult to see. But anyway, it's. I would still suggest doing it. Just do it on your own kind of thing. And I don't think anybody's going to look at this and be making jokes or something. And if they do, it's going to be out of their own awkwardness and lack of understanding and just kind of being ignorant about it. But just kind of alleviating that dissonance in the brain. Like, I can't believe this exists. And if you're with your buddies or something, you might play it off, but it's going to affect you regardless, right? It's not like someone's just because they made a joke or something that they're totally desensitized to it, or that they have no care, or that they don't whatever. It's just it's totally totally separate things. So I just really want to make that point about wording and stuff, especially when the day and age where anything you say can get you fired stuff. And I'm sure this is going to backfire on me. This is going to be used against me some way. He said he called this person effing retard. And I'm like, I didn't call him. I was related, and it's like it's not something you can explain. So you have to go watch the full clip to kind of get what my point is. And then a lot of people are still going to disagree with the point, saying he still shouldn't say retard. He shouldn't call someone retard. But I'm gonna, because I think it conveys a message. If I call her a fucking retard, this person should be they should be delisted, and then this guy should be promoted. The other guy should be promoted, and she should be delisted. It's idiocracy. We're living in idiocracy right now. This is the stuff that gets promoted, and then they value her as an endorsement. What I like about Bernie Sanders is that he's been doing this for a long time. He's a natural humanitarian. Oh my God. All right, well, these are your qualifiers. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. I hope you guys liked it. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you did like it, or if you appreciate it, share it with people, because I don't get any traction if nobody shares it. I'm just going to sit at 20 subscribers. So get it out there, and clip something. Even the last part, I've been shooting off about the word retard for about 30 minutes now. Splice it up. Get help me out with this stuff or something. Somebody out there, come on. Just at least subscribe. At least subscribe, guys. Give a comment. Tell us what you think. Anyway, we'll see you on the next episode.